Welcome to Chat with the Lawyer. I'm your host, Walla Blagay, and we're honored to have a notable guest, Attorney J Wyndal Gordon, also known as the Warrior Lawyer, so we'll have to know more about that. And he's going to talk to us about his practice. He's represented some clients in very notable cases that we've all heard of in media, and we want to know more about that. So, Attorney Gordon, tell us more about your practice.
Thank you. I have a general law practice in the city of Baltimore, located in the heart of downtown. And I practice in the areas of civil litigation and criminal defense, as you know, primarily emphasizing in the area of police brutality, civil rights, and some employment law. And then I tend to take on anything that appeals to my sense of justice or injustice. So I find myself taking up a lot of causes, especially nowadays since the world seems to be changing at such a rapid pace and things are happening to the African American community more so than others I'm noticing. So I'm doing a whole lot of things, actually.
Interesting. Well, we're going to learn all about that today. Now, talk to us about the sniper case. Now, I think we all here were ducking cars, scared for our lives, and you took on this very challenging case.
Yeah, that case was very challenging, and I didn't realize how challenging it was because of my own naivete, but once I got involved in the case, I realized that it was much bigger than myself and much bigger than the constitutional dimensions that I thought outlined or provided the parameters for the litigation. As you know, you probably don't know, I represented John Allen Muhammad, who was the father, and he was tried both in Virginia and the state of Maryland. And he was actually convicted in Virginia for killing one person and ended up receiving the death penalty and was executed in November of 2010, I believe it was, either 9 or 2010. However, it was a political year in 2006, and you might not remember, but Doug Gansler, who's now our Attorney General, was running for Attorney General, but he was actually the state's attorney in Montgomery County. And so this case, at least many have argued, was brought over to the state of Maryland. They said for insurance purposes in case he was able to get his conviction reversed in Virginia, but others have indicated that it was brought over to Maryland as sort of a coronation for Doug Gansler's run for the Attorney General's office. So we tried that case in the spring months of 2006. It took us an entire month to try that case, and it was a sight to behold, to politely state.
Did you do both the Maryland and Virginia?
No, I only did Maryland.
Okay.
I wasn't available to him for Virginia.
Okay.
But Mr. Muhammad had a lot of credible arguments that never made the light of day. For instance, all of us know that he was allegedly shooting with an AR-15 rifle. Mm-hmm. The rifle's approximately maybe this long. Mm-hmm. And apparently he was shooting out of the trunk of his car from a hole maybe about like this. Mm-hmm. And people believe that he had gotten to the trunk of his car with a rifle and he would shoot beyond the hole in the trunk of his car, such as this. Mm-hmm. But if that rifle was fitted with a scope and he's shooting out of a hole like this, how could he get a shot? It would be next to impossible. Furthermore, there was no gunshot residue on the exterior of the trunk, no gunshot residue in the interior of the trunk. The trunk had a big full-size spare tire, and you remember that old 90s beat-up Chevy Caprice? It came with very big spare tires, so he would literally have to take that spare tire out of the trunk, put it to the side, crawl into the trunk, shoot the gun, then put the spare tire back in the trunk, put it into the car, and then leave the scene. Thirdly, they said that his son Malvo was using a side view mirror as a spotter, so Malvo would be in the passenger seat as a spotter using his side view mirror. But we all know that images appear further away in the side view mirror than they do in real life. He'd be better off just turning around and assisting in that way as opposed to using the side view mirror. What else?
So are you saying he was not involved with any of the shooting?
Muhammad has always held fast to his position of innocence, and my job is just to advocate. I'm an advocate. Mm-hmm. And so that was my job, to assist him in advocacy. And based upon the facts that we were able to uncover throughout discovery in the case, I'm not convinced that his conviction was based beyond reasonable doubt. In fact, I found that the case was replete with reasonable doubt for various amounts of reasons. And I know that's not going to go over too well with your audience because they have to rethink something that they had held to believe for the last 12 years because this happened in 2002. But there's far more to this story than what meets the eye. And actually, I've been working on a book for the last 6 years. It's called A Jury of Our Fears. And in that book, I intend to recount these incidents and these shootings along with the evidence that was presented and that evidence that wasn't allowed to be presented because of the filters of judicial discretion and the rules of evidence. Mm-hmm. And I intend to bring all these things together in one manuscript or one format so people can read about this case in its full perspective as opposed to the limited version that was reported by the media or allowed to be entered into evidence by the courts.
Well, I mean, noted, and I think much of the audience might remember, there was a lot of video footage for this case. I mean, this was the early, mid-2000s where
2002.
Video footage was everywhere. So, I mean, I remember even sitting in my dorm room watching videos of the car moving. So it was clear, there was a car there.
Well, you have to understand media and you have to understand images. First of all, if you recall from 2002, everybody was in search of a white box truck. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Who confuses a white box truck with an old beat-up blue Chevy Caprice? That's absurd. Second of all, they found 2 white gentlemen in Stafford, Virginia, who actually drove a white box truck, who were actually in the Montgomery County area during the periods of time, or in the DC metropolitan area during these periods of times of the shooting. One of them was alleged to have been a disgruntled police officer who was fired from his job, and another one was talking about how much fun it would be to go on a shooting spree. And these aren't J Wyndal's words. These are documents that were revealed through the discovery in this case.
So were these gentlemen questioned?
They were questioned. In fact, their homes were raided. One lived in a rural area in Stafford, Virginia, where they found ammunitions, and they found an AR-15 rifle similar to the one that they claimed John Muhammad was guilty of possessing. And so the story goes on and on. There's much of an untold story that you all will never hear until I bring it out because no one else has an interest in providing this information to you. So I look forward one day to completing this book, and it has been a labor to say the least because it's just taken so long. It's hard to write a book and then practice law at the same time. But I promise Mr. Muhammad, and I also make this promise to his children that one day this book will come out.
Well, interesting. Well, you'll have to come back when you have it. We want to read it and go through it.
I put some excerpts out on my Facebook page. If you were to look me up, J Wyndal Gordon /Facebook.com. There's some excerpts from the book out that I've already done.
Interesting. Well, let's go into some of the Prince George's County cases that you've worked on. Now, there was the drag racing case? Yeah,
the Accokeek drag racing case. That case was very interesting. Another politically motivated case. Arguably, at least that's how I see it, or how I saw it. During the time that this case was going through, Glenn Ivey was considering at least the county executive office, and then he was ultimately considering a run against Donna Edwards for her congressional seat. This was the first case that I had heard of that Glenn Ivey had decided that he wanted to be a part of the litigation. He was actually participating in the trial of the case. So it was 2 lawyers against 1, and obviously that made it a fair fight. It was Wes Adams, who's now running for state's attorney in Anne Arundel County, and Glenn Ivey, as you know, against poor little old J Wyndal. But J Wyndal gave him heck. That's right. We gave him heck. The first trial, the jury hung on the manslaughter charges, and they opted not to retry the case because they didn't want to put the family through.
Go through the facts of the case. What happened?
Well, the facts are kind of difficult to recount, but it was basically it's about 300 or 400 people out in the dead of night around 3 o'clock in the morning on deep, dark Indian Head Highway. And I don't know if you've ever driven Indian Head Highway at night, but driving Indian Head Highway at night is like driving with your eyes closed because you see the same image, and that is nothing. So you have all these people in the middle of the road, and they're all crowded around this staging area where the cars get ready to take off down the track about a quarter of a mile distance that the track is. And so there was a car, as the cars had just taking off down the track. You know, people are standing on the side of the road, but they go into the middle of the road and they look down the track. They're not paying attention to what's coming behind them. It's dark, and the person who's coming behind them can't see either. So this car, who was driven by the co-defendant, just plowed right through all these people who were standing in the middle of the road. So body parts, legs, arms, and everything were strewn all over the middle of the road. And then my client, who's coming down afterwards, and he's having to navigate his way through body parts. But he sees his friend who had just come down before. His car actually crashed after hitting all those people. So he gets out, he pulls over, gets out of his car to offer assistance to his friend. His friend indicates he doesn't need assistance, so he just leaves. And at the end of all of that, at the end of the police investigation, they had somehow figured out that he had been on the scene, and they ended up charging him with the drag race when the actual drag racers had already completed their race. The state's argument was that there was a subsequent race that happened after the first race went out. So after the first cars went down the street, they claimed that some other cars were actually drag racing, and they ended up hitting all these people in the middle of the road, who should not have been in the middle of the road anyway, but those were the facts of the case. But we tried that case. That case took us a month to try. It was very intense and you know, high stakes trial, because had we lost, we were looking at 80 years of incarceration. But you know, the whole time I never believed for 1 second that we would be found guilty of these charges, because it just didn't make any sense. Number one, all these people had no business in the middle of the road at that time of the night. And number two, my client just was not responsible for these deaths. There was no blood spatter on his car. There were no indication, no tire tread marks or yaw marks in the road to indicate that he had tried to stop his car abruptly or anything like that. So I just never believed that he was involved in that case. However, the other guy and his attorney, the other guy who actually ran into the people, he pled guilty.
And this wasn't the guy that was in the car with your...
No, this was the first car that just plowed through everybody because he couldn't see. It was foggy. That's another element of the case. It was foggy at night. It's always foggy on Indian Head Highway. And so it's dark and it's foggy. So he couldn't really see. But because of the pressure, he pled guilty, and now he's serving a 15-year sentence. My client just finished college. He's a Kappa like me. And he's going on to obtain his master's degree. So he's doing very well.
Well, we're going to come back and hear more about some of your other cases. So please stay with us.
Everyone should know how to do hands-only CPR. If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, all you need are
2 simple steps. Call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives.
just push to the beat of the classic song, Staying Alive.
It really works.
You didn't let me finish. I really do know this stuff.
If it wasn't for disco, I'd be dead.
Staying alive, staying alive.
Do you think we should apply?
That's what the message says.
But we barely know what it's about.
Don't worry, girls. If you apply for deferred action for childhood arrivals, I can take care of everything for you. Just sign this contract here and you'll be good to go.
But where's your office?
This is my office. Think about it.
We definitely should ask.
Get the facts you need about deferred action for childhood arrivals.
Welcome back to Chat with the Lawyer. I'm your host, Walla Blagay, and I'm here with attorney J Wyndal Gordon, and he was giving us some very insightful information on some of his very big profile cases in the state of Maryland. So tell us how you got the Warrior Lawyer name.
Well, I got that actually working with John Muhammad. Yeah, he was impressed with my advocacy, and he referred to me as a warrior. He said, "You're a warrior lawyer." I said, "Well, yeah, that's what I am then," and that's how I became the warrior lawyer. That actually came from John Muhammad.
Interesting. Now let's talk about, we have the Trayvon Martin, the Ferguson situation going on, and you talked about you represent those with police brutality, and it's becoming an issue of racial profiling. What's your take on this? What advice do you have for those that have been victimized by police officers or been, they have experienced police brutality?
Yeah, once your case is over, what you should do is file an internal affairs report. There needs to be a record of this, and someone has even suggested creating a registry to register police officers who engage in this conduct the same way that we register sex offenders and handgun violators. So I think the works is coming to a point where someone is in the midst of creating a registry, but when you're stopped by police, this right here is your best tool. This is a smartphone, most of us have them. And what I'm telling young people these days is that most smartphones have a recording device on them. Most of them do. And when you're stopped by police, just hit record on this device and let it record. Put it somewhere inconspicuous in your car, maybe in the next to the center console or even in your lap, somewhere where the entire conversation can be recorded, because a lot of times misconduct starts with the interaction between police and the person who's being stopped. And most of the times, if you don't have any type of evidence, the courts are going to take the word of the police over the citizen because they just do. I mean, that's just the unfortunate situation of the life and times we live. It takes, normally, I always say, it takes about 2 people to match the credibility of one police officer. So you have to have 2 people saying the exact same thing to even give a legitimate challenge to the statements of a police officer in the court of law. So,
let me get a quick question. Now, in Maryland, isn't it illegal to record with a voice? Don't you need consent?
No, you do not. Just like you can video record a police officer conducting his public duties, you can also audio record them. So no, you only need to two-party consent if you're recording a telephone conversation, because that violates the wiretap laws. Okay. However, if you're on the street and you're confronted by police, please, by all means, if you see someone else confronted, not only pull out your recording device, but also pull out your video camera. Most of these phones have video cameras on them. So it's very important to be proficient in the use of these cameras, because these devices right here are really the evidence that we will use in the court of law to defend you. And it's much easier to have this device than to go around the community and try to obtain witnesses and obtain statements. That might forget or may be intimidated themselves, because there's a lot of police intimidation that goes on out here today. Sometimes people don't even call the police because they're scared that they might end up getting arrested and beaten simply by bringing their attention to something that's happening to them. So there's a lot of distrust in the community, and with the militarization of police, I don't see this stuff ending anytime soon.
Interesting. Now, what is your advice if somebody gets approached by police? Should they not say anything and just call you, or should they, Great
question. Turn on this device. First and foremost, if you have it in your hand, police might not even recognize what you're doing. Right now, I'm recording right now. I hit record. Everything that I'm talking about right now is being recorded. Turn on this device. This is the best thing for you. But when you're approached by police, the best thing to do is if you, I always tell you don't do anything, okay? I'm gonna tell you what your mama won't tell you, okay? It's best to keep your mouth shut, because you never know what angle they're coming from, and if you've done something wrong, you're not gonna talk so eloquently that you're gonna make them change their mind about what they're going to do. So it's best to just remain silent until you can obtain some type of representation, be it your parent or an attorney, to assist you with your conversation with the police. I don't think that there should be many one-on-one conversations with police these days, because I've seen too many situations. For instance, the Accokeek drag racing case, where my client was trying to be helpful and tell what he knew. They built the case around him because they found someone who's naive enough to be malleable and to say whatever it was they wanted him to say, so they could put charges on him. It is very dangerous dealing with police. And I said it first, and I'm going to say it to the top of my lungs. Back in the day, there was Officer Friendly, and you could report certain things to Officer Friendly because he was helpful in the community. You knew who he was, your parents knew who he was, and they trusted him. These days, these times are much different. Whereas before, you were prone to be helpful. Next, it can be detrimental to you to be helpful to police. And I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this, but they'll thank me when the actual confrontation occurs. Keep your mouth shut. If you're approached in your vehicle by police, let them do what they're going to do. Invoke your rights. If they want to search your car, tell them no. Have your recording device on so that it's picked up on your recording device. If they search your car anyway, you can't stop them. If they want your ID, tell them no. Have your recording device on. If they rough you up because you failed to do it, there's nothing you can do. They have all the power in the streets. Your power doesn't occur until you obtain a lawyer and you enter into the courtroom.
Now go back. You said now if they want to search your car, don't let them. But what do they need in order now? If they stop you, they search your car. Go through the process.
They still need probable cause to search a vehicle. I mean, nothing has eroded that right. But however, if they smell marijuana or even say they smell marijuana, that gives them probable cause. So you never know. I've seen situations where police officers searches the car because they claim they smell marijuana and pull out a glassine baggie of $5 worth of marijuana. Now, how are you going to smell that outside of your vehicle? But that was the excuse that they used to enter into your vehicle, and courts aren't doing anything about it. They're going to accept that testimony as if he's some mystical, magical, drug sniffing police officer who has a nose to smell a glassine baggie of marijuana under your seat in your vehicle, and they're not going to throw it out. They're actually going to sustain the charges. You're not going to win on any Fourth Amendment violations, and you'll have to deal with what comes from that. So turn these things on. Just use these things. These things are lifesavers.
Now they can't search your car without a warrant, right?
No, yes. If they have probable cause to search your car, they can search it without a warrant. For instance, if they smell marijuana, that's the big one that they use all the time, whether they smell it or not. And that was the example that I was just giving you. Second of all, if they place you under arrest, they can do what's called a search incident to arrest. So they can search all your lunge, reach, and grasp areas within the vehicle. What else? Anything that gives them probable cause to search. For instance, if they're behind you and they stop you on a traffic violation, they see you engaged in some furtive movement, they really don't understand what you're doing, they can order you out of the car. Police can order you out of the car. Mm-hmm. And if they can see whatever they can find in the plain view of your vehicle, either with their flashlight or just by peering into your vehicle, there's nothing to stop a police officer from the door of your car being open and just looking inside and seeing what's going on inside of your vehicle. And if they find something suspicious that heightens their sense of probable cause, then they can search.
So what if they come and search your house?
They should have a warrant to search your house. However, if they smell marijuana, or as a lot of them tend to say, they can search your house without a warrant. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right. So then your advice is just record and call. Record and call.
Yes. Record each and every encounter that you can get, because that will help us. Now, some of us community organization leaders are trying to start a repository of police officers' names so that we can create this registry to have them publicized. The same way they would publicize someone allegedly involved in a crime, we want to publicize officers who are allegedly or even involved in police misconduct. And I think those things that we can do on our own without the aid of government can assist us in kind of chipping away at the full-fledged abuse of police powers.
Now, let's just jump quickly into the case that you worked on, the bottle case.
The bottle bomb case?
Yeah, the bottle bomb case. And that was fairly recent, so this is ongoing litigation right now.
Right. That case is a science experiment on steroids. Basically, it's not even a bomb that was created by the other gentleman, not even my client, but the other gentleman. Basically, what he did was he took baking soda, white vinegar, and poured it into a bottle. When you agitate baking soda and white vinegar in a bottle, it causes the bottle to rupture, and it creates a loud noise. It's not a weapon. It is not an explosive device. More or less, by law, actually under the public safety article, it suits the definition of a firework more so than anything else. Because of the noise that it makes, it doesn't disperse shrapnel, it doesn't dispense with any type of, projectiles or things of that nature. It just makes a loud noise. It's startling, it's stupid, it's a prank, something that young teenagers would do. And that's what the other gentleman actually did. My client didn't have anything to do with it other than the fact that he knew the gentleman. And they indicated that he drove him to the movie theater, but the gentleman had gone to the movies with his girlfriend and my client, but my client was on the opposite side of the theater, and he was on the far side of the theater, the one who actually deployed I call it a bottle, not a bottle bomb, but a pressure vessel. And that's what it really is, a pressure vessel. And once it overpressurizes, it ruptures. So the one who actually deployed the pressure vessel in the movie theater, my client didn't have anything to do with it. He was on the other side of the movie theater. So that case is going to be interesting in the long run. But it started off as this big political case, but at the end of the day, it's not much to it. And I think evident of that fact is the fact that we don't even have discovery, and it's been 3 months after they've charged him, and they haven't produced a lick of discovery in this case. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Now let's jump back to the recording police officers. Now there has been legislation discussed about sort of getting video recording done in the state of Maryland. Are you working with organizations with?
Yeah, well, we're in full support of body cameras, I think you're referring to, being worn by police.
Right.
But that doesn't protect necessarily the citizen, because I mean, it somewhat does. It's a step in the right direction, but you don't see what the officer's doing. You only see how the citizen's reacting to what the officer's doing. Hopefully you'll be able to hear what the officer is saying. But at any rate, I do support that legislation. It was introduced by Frank Conaway up in Baltimore, and it was killed last year. But I believe that momentum is building, and I think that maybe this session it'll have a better chance. And if not this session, the following session, I believe that bill will ultimately pass.
Interesting. Well, how do we get in contact with you? List your number. Like, how do if they want to have a warrior lawyer on their side, what do I have to do?
My office again is in Baltimore, although I grew up in Prince George's County, right down here in Fort Washington, Maryland. My phone number is 410-332-4121. You can reach me on Facebook, The Warrior Lawyer, Instagram, The Warrior Lawyer, Pinterest, The Warrior Lawyer, Twitter, The Warrior Lawyer. So just plug in The Warrior Lawyer, you can find me.
You're everywhere.
I try to be.
Well, if you have more information, you want more information on other videos or any questions about the show, please contact us at chatwiththelawyer@gmail.com, or you can check out our website at www.wyldalblagay.com. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice. And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
We couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
For those with mental or substance use disorders, what does recovery look like? It's a transformation. It's a supporting hand. It's new beginnings. When does recovery start? It starts when you ask for help and support. Join the Voices for Recovery. Speak up. Reach out.
For information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Because my parents told me I have to be responsible.
Because my first coach told me, you can do this.
Because my teacher helped me see the choices.
Because my coach treated me like everybody else.
Because my boss showed me how to do a good job.
Because a mentor believed in my potential.
Is why I am where I am today.
I'm swimming faster than I ever dreamed I could.
I discovered that I could work as an artist.
I led my high school team to 2 championships.
I am a valuable employee.
I have a career that I am passionate about.
I will be whatever I want to be.
What can you do?
What can you do?
Like all young people, youth with disabilities should grow up expecting to work and succeed. For more information, visit whatcanyoudocampaign.org.